All right, welcome back, everyone. Today we're going to be tackling a topic that you guys specifically requested.
Oh, nice.
And it's one that always, seems to get people talking, get people riled up.
Yeah.
It's sex on the first date.
Ooh, juicy.
So is it like a recipe for disaster or a sign of the times?
Right.
Or, just another choice in the crazy world of modern dating?
It's so interesting to me how in 2024, this is still such a hot topic.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone has such a strong opinion about it.
Right.
And there's so much data about it these days.
Yeah, everyone's got an opinion, and we've got, a ton of research here.
Yeah.
We've got surveys from YouGovMatch.com. We've got journal articles about relationships, even some insights into how online dating kind of plays into all of this.
Oh, sure.
But before we, get all, moralistic about this,
Right.
let's just look at the numbers.
Yeah.
What's the reality here?
The facts.
What's going on with the first date intimacy these days?
I think that's the perfect place to start,
Yeah.
Let's start with the data,
Mm-hmm.
but then let's dig a little deeper.
Oh, yeah?
Like, what are some of the societal shifts or the gender dynamics that are maybe driving some of these trends?
Okay. Yeah. Interesting.
And then I think the most important thing, what's the emotional impact?
Yeah.
Is this all, just fun and games?
Right.
Or, is there a potential for a broken heart here?
All right, so let's unpack this whole thing.
Yeah.
First up, how common is sex on the first date?
Yeah, that's the question, right?
So we found this 2017 YouGov survey,
Good.
and they found that about 20 to 25% of people in the U.S. have done it.
So it's not like a majority,
Right.
It's not like most people.
Right.
But it's not exactly taboo either.
Yeah.
Right. And this is where I think it gets really, really interesting.
Okay.
That number, it jumps way up when we look at younger people.
Okay.
So Q Research in 2017 found that it was much more common with people under 30, especially men.
Interesting. So maybe these dating apps aren't just for finding the one after all, huh?
Right.
I mean, there's this 2019 Statista survey,
Okay.
and they found that 36%, a full third, of 18 to 29-year-old online daters
Okay.
had gotten intimate on that first date.
It makes you wonder if the whole way that people approach dating has just fundamentally changed.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. Dating apps.
Yeah.
They often cater to people who are looking for, those more casual encounters. So it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
That if you're on a platform
Right.
where casual dating is kind of the name of the game,
Yeah.
then you might be more likely to be intimate on that first date.
Yeah. It's almost like the platform kind of sets the tone
That's the tone.
from the beginning.
Finally.
But speaking of differences, we can't ignore this gender gap here.
Yeah.
So across multiple studies, men are consistently more likely to report having sex on that first date.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
That is the question.
Yeah.
It's speaks to some really interesting differences
Okay.
in how, men and women often perceive that initial date.
Mm-hmm.
So this 2019 study from the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships
Okay.
suggests that, guys might view that first date more through a lens of, casual sex,
Interesting.
whereas women tend to prioritize emotional connection right off the bat.
So it's not even just about the physical attraction then.
It's deeper, yeah.
It's about, what are you hoping to get out of this this first encounter?
Totally.
Is it just a fleeting moment of fun, or is it
Nice.
is there potential for something more?
Yeah.
It really makes you think about the motivations.
It does. And, it challenges some common assumptions, too.
Okay.
I mean, it's not necessarily that women are always looking for a serious relationship from date one, right?
Sure.
But the research does suggest that women are often more selective
Okay.
about, who they choose to be intimate with.
Makes sense, but then it makes you wonder, are attitudes about all of this actually shifting? Is first date sex becoming less taboo?
Yeah, that's a really complex question.
Yeah.
But we did find this really interesting finding from 2016
Okay.
Glamour magazine.
Okay.
They did a survey, 68% of women
Okay.
and 54% of men
Wow.
actually said that they thought it could be okay
Interesting.
under the right circumstances.
So it's not automatically
I
a
don't
deal
know.
breaker anymore.
It seems like things are changing.
It's not as black and white as we
Totally.
think it is.
Totally.
And This kind of reminds me of some data from Match.com that they put out in 2018.
Okay.
And they said that first date sex is more common among people who are looking for short-term flings.
Makes sense.
But that doesn't mean that people who are hoping for like a lasting relationship are totally against it.
It depends on the person. Right.
So how do we reconcile these seemingly conflicting ideas?
That's a great question.
Because on the one hand, women seem to be prioritizing this emotional connection.
Right.
On the other hand, a majority of them are saying that first date sex can be okay.
I think the key here is context. It's not about a rigid rule.
Okay.
It's about what feels right in a particular situation,
Yeah.
And it brings us back to the importance of understanding individual expectations.
Right, because if you assume that everyone's operating from the same playbook, it can lead to like a lot of
misunderstanding,
feelings, all that stuff. Yeah. So let's talk about those expectations then.
Okay.
Does having sex on the first date actually doom your chances of finding,
Ooh, the big question.
Lasting love? That's the $1 million question.
Yeah.
Does jumping into bed on date one mean you've kissed your happily ever after goodbye? What's the research say?
Well, good news.
Okay.
A 2016 study from Personal Relationships found that it doesn't necessarily inherently sabotage things.
Okay.
It really comes down to, you guessed it, expectations.
Okay. Interesting.
If both people are on the same page about, what they're looking for, whether that's a casual fling or something, more serious long term, then, first date intimacy might not be a big deal.
But I found this study from the Journal of Sex Research from 2017. Okay. And they said 70% of people who had sex on the first date stayed in touch afterward. What? But only 35% ended up in committed relationships months later.
That's a really important point.
Yeah.
And it's definitely something to think about. But remember, correlation doesn't equal causation.
Right.
There could be tons of other factors at play there.
Right.
Maybe the people who were already, more inclined towards casual dating were the ones who were more likely to, have sex on the first date in the first place.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Right.
It seems like we're focusing a lot on the logistical and the statistical side of things. But let's be real. This topic is loaded with emotion.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
So what about all the feelings involved in all of this?
Absolutely. I mean, it's not just about numbers and outcomes. It's about how we feel before, during, and after that date,
Exactly.
And sometimes things can get, a little messy emotionally when you throw intimacy into the mix right away.
So let's dive into that emotional side. What are some of the potential pitfalls? Yeah. And how do men and women kind of experience this differently?
Well, so there was this 2018 study in the Psychology of Women Quarterly.
Okay.
And it found that women often experienced more regret after first date sex, while men were more likely to feel excited, even if they didn't feel like a super strong connection.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Is it really that different for men, though? Can't they feel disconnected or used to?
Oh, totally.
Especially if they're hoping for something more meaningful to develop.
Men have feelings too. Right. They're not, robots.
Yeah.
They have feelings, and those feelings can be hurt just as easily.
Sure.
Especially if there's a mismatch in expectations.
Totally.
Yeah. Imagine going on a date. Yeah. And you're hoping for this real connection. Right. And then it just ends with a purely physical encounter. Right. That leaves you feeling kind of empty.
Yeah.
That's not a good feeling for anybody.
So it's not just about men wanting casual sex and women wanting commitment.
It's more nuanced than that.
It's about understanding that everyone has their own
role,
emotional landscape.
Yeah.
And those landscapes can be totally different.
Yeah.
The key is to just be mindful of that.
Be much.
And to approach dating with a sense of empathy and respect for the other person's feelings as well as your own.
I love that.
It seems like we're constantly being bombarded with all these messages about how, casual sex is becoming the norm, especially with the rise of dating apps.
Yeah, it's like the message everywhere.
But the reality is much more nuanced than that, right?
It really is.
It's not that simple.
While it's true that dating apps have created this space where casual encounters are more common.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that that negates all the real emotional complexities that come with intimacy.
Right.
And it certainly doesn't mean that everyone's comfortable hopping into bed on the first date.
Right. And we've already seen how those attitudes can differ between men and women.
Yeah, for sure.
So it makes me wonder, are we seeing a genuine shift? In societal norms.
In how we think about it.
Yeah, about first date sex.
Yeah.
Or are we just
like
more open to talking about it now?
Yeah, are we more open about it? That's such a good question.
It's hard to say for sure, but if we look at the data, there are some hints that societal norms might be evolving. Like that glamour survey that we talked about, where a majority of both men and women said first date sex could be okay.
Exactly.
In the right context.
Exactly. And if we factor in, the undeniable influence of online dating.
Yeah. Dating apps have changed the game completely.
It's a whole new world.
Remember that stat, 36%?
Wow, yeah.
Of young adults.
It is significant.
Hooking up on the first date for meeting online.
When you think about it, it makes sense,
That's huge.
Dating apps, they often they cater to people who are, seeking those more casual connections.
Yeah.
So it's natural, I think, that the likelihood of first date intimacy would increase within that environment.
It's not just about individual attitudes then.
No.
The platforms we use for dating are also
shaping our behavior.
And expectations.
Totally. Absolutely.
And that, I guess, kind of speaks to a broader cultural shift. Casual dating and hooking up has become more normalized. Especially among, younger generations.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily seen as taboo or scandalous anymore.
Right.
But even if casual dating is more accepted now, it doesn't mean everyone's on board with
not at all
jumping into bed right away.
Absolutely not.
Remember, we still see that.
Really.
Gender difference in attitudes and comfort levels.
Absolutely. The research consistently shows that women, on average, tend to be more cautious, more selective.
Yeah.
Prioritizing that emotional connection over purely physical intimacy.
Yeah.
Especially on that first date.
Which brings us back to, I think, the essential point here.
Yeah.
Regardless of what, the stats say.
Yeah.
Or what societal norms seem to be, communication and respecting each other's boundaries.
Yes. Boundaries
are crucial.
Absolutely.
You really have to have open and honest conversations with, your date.
For sure.
About expectations.
Yeah, what are we doing here?
And comfort levels. You can't just assume
no assumption.
Anything.
Absolutely.
It really just comes down to talking about it.
Talking about it.
You've got to talk about it.
That's so important.
And it's not just about, the physical aspect.
It's about the heart.
It's about the emotional side of things, too.
Right.
How might this impact how you feel about yourself?
How you feel about yourself,
How might this impact the dynamic between you and this new person you're getting to know?
Totally.
And it's interesting because we often hear this message, don't sleep with someone on the first date if you want a relationship.
Right, that's the rule.
But the research doesn't necessarily
it's not so simple.
Support that as a hard and fast rule.
Yeah, there are plenty of couples who have, built these happy, successful, long-term relationships, even after, getting intimate on the first date.
Right.
And then there are plenty for whom it didn't work out.
Yeah.
It's
not a simple equation.
It's not an equation.
There's no guaranteed formula for relationship success, but being informed.
Yes.
Being self-aware.
So important.
Setting clear boundaries.
Communicating openly. Communicating, so important.
Those are all things that can
it can help.
Definitely help you navigate this
this tricky terrain.
It's tricky terrain with with more confidence.
Couldn't agree more.
Knowledge is power.
It really is.
Especially when it comes to dating and relationships.
Especially with all the emotions,
Where emotions run so high.
Yeah.
Expectations can clash.
All that. Absolutely.
So true.
Yeah.
Now, before we go, I want to leave you with one final thought-provoking question.
Okay.
So we've talked a lot about how attitudes toward first date sex might be changing.
Right.
And it begs the question.
Yeah, I'm listening.
If these attitudes are shifting, what larger societal forces
good question.
might be driving that change?
I love that.
Is it all about personal choice?
That's it all about the individual?
Or are there deeper cultural currents at play here?
That's a really good question.
It feels like there's a lot more going on beneath the surface.
It's not a simple answer. But reflecting on those broader influences can help us understand not just what people are doing, but why?
Yeah.
Why are their behaviors and their attitudes evolving?
Exactly.
Are we becoming more individualistic? Is technology reshaping our connections?
Interesting.
It's worth considering.
It really is.
Yeah.
All right, folks, so that wraps up our deep dive into the world of first date sex.
It's a fascinating one.
From the stats to the feels. It's clear this topic is a lot more nuanced than it might seem on the surface.
Absolutely.
So we encourage you to think critically about everything we've
think critically.
discussed today.
What resonated with you?
What resonated with you?
What surprised you?
What surprised you? And most importantly, how does this new understanding kind of inform your own
approach,
approach to dating and relationships?
Totally.
Remember, there's no one-size-fits-all answer here.
There's no right answer.
The most important thing is to be true to yourself.
To yourself.
To your value.
What are your values?
And to what you're looking for.
Exactly.
Connection.
Yeah, what are you looking for?
And remember, your date might have totally different expectations.
Totally comfort levels.
Different comfort levels,
Than you do.
Right.
Open communication is essential.
It really is.
Do not make assumptions.
Assumptions are dangerous.
Talk about it.
Talk about it.
Communication.
Dating can be a wild ride.
It can be a wild ride.
But being informed, being self-aware can help you.
It helps navigate the wild ride.
With more confidence and hopefully a lot more fun along the way.
And more fun, exactly.
So, until next time.
Yes.
Keep exploring.
Keep exploring.
Keep
questioning.
And keep diving deep.
I love it.
So it's not just about men wanting casual sex and women wanting commitment.
It's more nuanced than that.
It's about understanding that everyone has their own
world,
emotional landscape, and those landscapes can be
totally different.
The key is to just be mindful of that.
Be mindful.
And to approach dating with a sense of empathy and respect for the other person's feelings as well as your own.
I love that.
So it's not just about men wanting casual sex and women wanting commitment.
It's more nuanced than that.
It's about understanding that everyone has their own
world,
emotional landscape.
Yeah.
And those landscapes can be
totally different.
The key is to just be mindful of that.
Be mindful.
And to approach dating with a sense of empathy
for sure.
And respect for the other person's feelings as well as your own.
I love that.
All right, folks. Well, that about wraps up our deep dive into the world of
first date sex.
First date sex.
Yeah.
We've gone over a lot.
A lot of data.
And it's clear this topic is a lot more nuanced.
For sure.
Than it might seem at first glance.
Absolutely.
So we really encourage you to, think critically about everything we've talked about today.
Yeah, what resonated with you?
What maybe surprised you?
What surprised you?
Yeah, and I think most importantly, how does all of this new understanding inform your own approach?
Yeah, your own approach to dating, relationships in general.
For sure.
So, remember, there's no right answer here.
Oh, right.
The most important thing is
Is to be true to yourself.
Yeah, be true to you.
Your values.
Your values. What are your values?
And to what you're really looking for in a connection.
What are you looking for?
And don't forget, your date might have completely different...
totally different.
Expectations.
And comfort levels.
Comfort levels, for sure.
Then open communication is essential.
It's so important.
So
Don't make assumptions.
Don't make assumptions.
Yeah.
You got to talk about it.
Talk about it. Communication is key.
Communication is key.
Yes.
Dating can be a wild ride.
It can be.
But being informed.
Yeah.
And being self-aware.
Yeah, knowing yourself.
Can help you navigate it with
more confidence.
More confidence and hopefully a lot more fun along the way.
Yeah, more fun.
So until next time.
Yes.
Keep exploring.
Keep exploring.
Keep questioning.
Keep questioning.
I love it. See you next time.